Uh, appreciate you all joining us this evening. It's so critical that we get together and hear from those people who are being most impacted by some of the laws that are being put in place. Most recently, the curfew for our teenagers, those under the age of 18, which put them in their homes between midnight and 5 a.m. Or if they're found outside within those time periods, there's punitive damages for them, so to speak. But I think what's critical is that we have conversations about what the real issue is. Quite frankly, we've seen that crime has been climbing since the doors have opened, since COVID somewhat wound down. We've seen more anger, we've seen more challenges in schools, and certainly we had a very violent summer. And at the end of the summer, there was a curfew that was put in place by County Executive Angela Alsobrooks. I think just to get started, we're going to roll a video from a newscast that will kind of set the tone for what we'll be talking about. Let's roll that.
I can't hit a video at all.
And make it a full screen if we could. Technology is great when it works.
Shootings and carjackings. It's a problem we talk about far too often here. Prince George's County is now taking action.
Can we make that a full screen?
Also, Brooks announcing a new curfew for everyone under the age of 17.
As adults I talked to reacted to the curfew decision.
The curfew may help for, especially some of the younger kids.
It does start with the individual parent being accountable for their children. I mean, they're someone's child.
Do some of these juveniles you've been hearing about, carjacking, ghost guns, not afraid to pull the trigger, does this kind of stuff scare you?
Yes, it scares me like really, really, really bad.
Here on the county side of the line, Executive Angela Alsobrooks is describing the curfew as no more than a temporary solution. She wants prosecutors, judges, and Maryland's Department of Juvenile Services to stop what the police chief here calls a catch and release system that in some cases has put violent juveniles back out on the street despite 3 prior arrests for carrying guns.
Our community, that we care about their safety, but we also care about them.
2 weeks ago, following the deadliest month in Prince George's history, the county executive issued a curfew for anyone under 17. The state's attorney says she supports that move, but says authorities must also focus on kids skipping school. She says the stats show the peak time for juvenile crime is 3 in the afternoon.
So making sure that kids are in school during the school day, learning, achieving, so that they won't make these bad mistakes.
So we're kind of all over the place with the issue. Is the issue our judges? Is the issue the way young folks are prosecuted? Or is it none of those things? So what we have done is ask for our youth to come on. I see that we have Micaiah King. And as I mentioned your name, it'd be great if you can get on camera and tell us a little bit about yourself, your age, where you go to school, and your thoughts on some of the challenges that we're having out here. We'll start with you, Micaiah. Actually, before we get started with you, I do want to mention Sherman Hardy. Please wave your hand. Sherman is hosting this. In fact, this was his idea to come together, and I was happy to agree to participate with him and Anthony Tillman, both of whom have been very active and want to continue to be active in our community to find solutions. It's easy to point fingers, but we're about the solutions, and that's why we're here tonight, to work with you. These are issues that affect the youth. We want to hear from the youth. What can we do to help make our society better and to make our streets safer for you and for all? Let's start with you, Micaiah King Brooks.
You said, what can y'all do to make the streets safer?
Yes.
I feel like Congress should have better gun laws. I feel as though it's easier for kids to find guns nowadays than it is to find anything else. It's like it's really easy to get access to a gun nowadays, and how anything else has easy access. Like people can get a gun before they could buy something at a store, and that's like real crazy because all they do is throw a price tag on the gun. Once the kid has the money, then they can just buy it just like that. And I feel as though when they have it, they don't know what to do with it, which leads to violence going on.
How old are you, Micaiah?
13.
Have you witnessed violent crimes, or you know of situations in your immediate community with young
Yes.
folks like yourself? Well, tell us a little bit about what you've seen, what you've experienced.
I've seen people get shot before. I've seen people on the ground begging for mercy. I've seen a lot.
And were these acts committed by other 13-year-olds, 12-year-olds?
No, it's mainly anywhere from like 17 and 25, anywhere from 17 to 25, not by no one close to my age.
How does that make you feel? And do you feel safe in your community?
No, I feel as though I can get hit by a stray bullet any minute sometimes when I go outside.
You know, that's pretty unfortunate. And this is the reason why I wanted to have these conversations. The purpose behind it is because, you know, I dislike when people talk around me and not to me. And, you know, even you all as teenagers or young adults, you're people, you have feelings, you know, I have thoughts as well, and you should be seen and you should be heard. And I definitely believe that you all are impacted too. You all face the same trauma that adults do. You will, you know, have trauma, PTSD, and so many other things. And, you know, we have to have support groups, even for, you know, I won't say victims or survivors, but even like bystanders, you know, because it does impact you. Just like you say that you've witnessed, you know, individuals being shot, you know, beg for mercy and for life, and you know, the carelessness of that individual still going and taking someone's life. You know, it's unconscionable. One thing I do want to ask, when you talk about, you know, weapons and firearms being, you know, prevalent, you know, wherever you are, you know, we have, Prince George's has not seen or been affected by mass school shootings. But knowing the amount of guns that have been found recently within our school system and weapons, you know, how do you feel safe in your school? What do you feel like we can do to prevent gun violence or prevent guns from being born in school as well?
I mean, in my school, they have metal detectors up. I feel as though my school is safe. And I feel as though most schools where there are school shootings at, I feel as though it's because they have teachers that are like really disrespectful. They have kids that are in the schools bullying. They don't have too much of a secure school. It's like they take the threats and stuff lightly, and maybe like stuff been going on. Who knows if the person is reporting it and the school just isn't doing anything about it? Because I know schools, they just take stuff and they do nothing about it. They take information and it's just like they throw it out the window.
Thank you for that. And I want to recognize that we have Joanna Hardy here. She's a founder and executive director of Guns Down Friday, which is a violence reduction and also a violence reduction counselor for Children's National, and program manager for the county executive Hope in Action. So I'm hoping that she can speak to us a little bit about some of the challenges that she sees and some of what she's put in place, or what's being put in place to help quell some of the challenges that are out there currently. Ms. Hardy.
Hello, everyone. How y'all doing today?
Doing great, thank you.
So it's so funny that this is happening right now because, real quick story, I drive a Tesla and the detective called me. I didn't call her back. I lost my grandmother. So they're subpoenaing my car right now because my car witnessed a murder. And they need my car because it is an investigation. So I can't, this work is nonstop. So, you know, it's crazy the things that we have to go through. I live, you know, this is Suitland community. My daughter was in the store when a man was shot and killed. So the violence is terrible. As far as the curfew, I think it's a wonderful thing. I always talk about how Marion Barry had the curfew program and how it worked back then. So, you know, doing nothing doesn't work. So for me, you know, it's a try, it's a start to something, and I just can't wait to see the data and the results of if this really helped. And another thing I do know is gun violence is seasonal. So I wish the curfew was in effect over the summer. We know the kids went back to school, so you know, I have my own little feelings, but I really feel like it should have been done over the summer to see a real change. But we have to start somewhere.
We do. And Monique, and thank you so much, Joanna. Monique, we do have some more teenagers that have joined the room. We can definitely hear from some of them. Divine, we would love to hear from you. As a young adult, what do you believe your most pressing issue is or challenge that you face in the community, at home, or in school?
My most pressing issue in the community, well, mostly it's coming from school, but it's my mental health. Because with school, it's really stresses me out, and they tried to combat it by giving us like 1 day per quarter to take a mental health day. So you can take 1 day out of the school year, like every like a quarter that lasts like 2 months, 2 to 3 months, or 1 day. And I'm thinking, with mental health, 1 day is not enough. They should be promoting like getting help from therapists and like contacting people, because like mental health is a real issue that schools tend to gloss over, like because a lot of schools I know, kids in my school, like they have like there's a school therapist that they work with. A lot of kids are like talking to her, and I do talk to her, so that's something like that is an issue that school tends to gloss over, and before you know it, some kid ends up taking their own life, because schools they don't really care that much. They just like having like appearances like, hey, these students are working hard and good, and putting a lot of strain on the students.
Have you had any peers who have attempted suicide or cutting or any thing of that sort?
Yes.
Do you believe there were resources available to help them before or after that incident?
I'm not particularly sure. These are the people who have done that were actually they're pretty close to me. They're my friends. They have help now. They do have help now. But I don't know what was the cause of all this. I don't know if school or home life. But I'm glad they're better now.
Yeah, regardless of it's school or home life, we those are things that have to be addressed. It's a concern to all of us, when someone is crying out for help in that manner, where it's they saying, hey, I don't feel like there's anybody listening. This is what I have to resort to get this attention, and say that, I'm going to take my life, or to, make that attempt, or, to do some of those things. So, that's unfortunate. That's another thing that, can impact you as a person, as a human being as well. I had a friend who we were in the military, and she experienced postpartum depression, after she had her baby, and she became a cutter. And, when I found out, that was really stressful upon myself as well. And I'm an adult at this point, and I had no idea what to do. My command let me know. And, when I talked to her about it, she says, hey, I used to do this as a kid, and this just kind of resurged, when I was having these emotions. So, regardless if it's happening to you as a young adult, as an adult, or, whenever, it's definitely important, to have some resources to help with that. So, like I said, it's unfortunate that you experienced that. Is there any other thing that you would like to share with us, that you feel is, something that we haven't said, or something that we should say?
I would like to add on to what Micaiah has said about in terms of like gun violence, because I was part of the rally of the protest for gun violence back, I think 2017. That rally was 2017. Yeah, and it really it also shows on the parents, because usually sometimes these kids get these guns from their parents, and the U.S. is so loose with their laws about it. Like it's not happening anywhere else but the US, all these mass shootings. Japan has created such strict laws that they eliminated gun violence almost entirely. And I'm thinking, why can't we adapt some of these laws? Like you have to have a safe to put your gun, because I've seen many news on social online where kids have gotten a hold of their parents' gun and they accidentally shot themselves, or they just bring the gun to school. Because there was an incident back in 9th grade at our homecoming dance that near the end, someone had brought a gun and pretty sure started shooting. I didn't know that someone was shooting because I was already in the car leaving, but all of a sudden I see people running and I didn't click that something happened until they brought it back up again when I was in class. And our homecoming is coming up pretty soon. I'm just hoping they do like something to search students so they won't be bringing weapons inside the dance. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
So we also see that we have Giselle Daychek. Did I pronounce that well? Close? Not at all? No.
Good job. Thank you.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on just certainly personal issues, but also crime at large. You know, where do you feel the focus is? You know, where do you feel we're missing it, missing the help, getting people the help that they need before they cause crime?
So I've written down like a few notes about like 6 topics or so that I was going to talk about, mainly relating around my school per se, because I felt like that's something you guys had more control over. So the first thing is I'm a 17-year-old senior at Friendly High School in Fort Washington, Allentown area. And I lived in Virginia for 15 years of my life. I was in Prince William County. And then my second semester of sophomore year, I transferred to Maryland. And there was a really stark difference between my old school and my new school now, which is Friendly High School. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about those things. So firstly, relating with like many incidents that have happened regarding violence, gun violence, I know that my school personally, they have more fight pages anywhere, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, than they do like student government or clubs or something like that. And so ironically, there was an incident that happened yesterday. It's very often that incidents occurred. And I can read the email out loud. It says, it's a short email, so I'm sorry. Dear parents and guardians, I'm writing to inform you about an incident at Friendly High School. A student was found in possession of a toy gun with a knife attached on school property. No students or staff members were harmed. And there's like a longer paragraph, but it's basically about encouraging acceptable behaviors for in the household so that when they come to school, that they are better. But I feel a lot revolving around that is mainly due to the school environment and the staff. So one of the few things I've written down is that after that incident yesterday, they put in place a mandate where all students are no longer allowed to carry their backpacks around. So they gave us our lockers and they want us to put everything in our lockers up until for the entire day that we'd be using. And get like all our items and whatnot that we'd be using for the entire day and like carry them on ourselves. And one of the smaller concerns is that there's mold in almost every single locker and some weird spillage in a lot of the lockers. So, but last year when I was here in person, there were so many incidents to the point where when we went on lockdowns, some of the teachers didn't stop teaching anymore. They continued to teach. They continued to talk to their students in a very loud voice. They didn't lock their doors. They didn't do anything. It was such an occurring thing that no one really cared anymore, that we were going into lockdown. No one really cared that it was unsafe. And more so, I feel like the environment of Friendly is way more depressing than the environment at my old school. I understand that Friendly is probably one of the least funded like schools in the county, and it shows. It really goes to show that we do not get enough care that other schools get. And when I was on like tennis team, swim team, and all that, I went to different schools and I saw like how bright and open their school environments were, how much bigger the schools were, how they had like windows, how they had so much decorations around, and it was really opening and welcoming. And I would have loved to like go there every single day, but at my school, there is a place where students get sent if they get dress code violated, or if they were wearing a hoodie. Like last year, if you were wearing a hoodie, you had to go sent to this room. And in the room, there was literal prison bars, what it looks like, on the windows. And it was ironic, and it felt like a literal prison, the actual like school. And one of the incidents, we were actually on the news. We were on the news for a fight that had happened, and it put a teacher out of school for multiple months, I think for the rest of the year, because the teacher got like hit or something, and they had to like go to the hospital, and they were out of school for the rest of the school year. And the fact that the things I heard from the staff were that they were more concerned that, oh, why would that student show their parent that video? Why did the parent send that to the news? Because now we're not going to get funded. Now everyone thinks we're a bad school. It wasn't that, oh, we shouldn't have, that fight shouldn't have happened. I'm glad like awareness was brought to that. It's now there's a bad rep on us. Now we're not going to get money, which is not where priority should be held. And I do talk more about the staff later on. Another thing, I feel like with incidents, they prioritize things so trivial, like such as dress code. Like I remember I got dress coded for the wrong shade of red, which was something I feel should not be where priorities are held. And I feel like remediation is prioritized over rehabilitation, and all of that is prioritized over education, which is not where our priorities should be held. Like overall, the school environment is pretty bad. Another thing that can correlate to what Divine said, I think, if that's how to pronounce her name, I'm sorry, is that our counselors. So I remember I had to go to the counselors area, and it was for my schedule because they were saying, oh, like your schedule's kind of messed up, you kind of can't graduate. So I had to go to the counselors and I had to get that fixed. And so when I got there, I noticed that the person that was sitting like at the front desk was like, do you have an appointment? And I'm like, yes, I was told to come here by my counselor. And she's like, I need to see the emails, I need to see the appointment. And what's scary about that is that I remember in my middle school at Virginia, students' mental health is really concerning. It's really bad. And in middle school, I remember there was a kid, and he or she brought scissors, and they told their friends like, I'm gonna go cut myself, and they went to the bathroom. Those group of friends, they immediately went to the counselor. The counselor's door was wide open. It was accessible for anyone to go to. And they talked to the counselor like, please, like we need help. Those counselors were available for mental health. The counselor went to that student and they provided some help. That student didn't end up cutting themselves. And that access, I've never heard students with bad mental health say, oh, I need to go to the counselor. I don't know if we have a mental health advisor. I've never heard anything about that. I know that some other schools have, or like there's probably an email out there that we can reach out to, but I know it wasn't explicitly told that it's available for us. And again, I feel like we are very underrepresented in the fact that we are a poor school with low income, and it is reflected in every way possible, whether it be the school environment or the grades and whatnot. And the big thing is like, if I need to make an appointment with my counselor, if I felt like I wasn't okay and I wanted to go talk to a counselor, because I know I can't talk to some teachers or staff, because I know if I'm seen in the hallways by a staff member, I'm immediately told, why are you in the hallways? Go to that room, to ALC, I think they call it, which is where like the prison bars are. I know I can't go there, and I know I can't get access to my counselor. And again, I feel like that's a big cause for why students are the way they are. One of the later things that I wrote is about like coping mechanisms and like substance abuse. Before I went to Friendly, I didn't know what weed smelled like. I didn't think like if kids did it, and if they did, like it was probably like 1 or 2 out of the entire school, and they did it like safely. I remember for the first time smelling weed when I was like passing by one of the bathrooms, and I'm like, is someone like cooking something? Why does it smell like burnt yet sweet, like yet weird? Like, what is that? And my friend's like, you've never smelled that before? That's weed. And I'm like, I didn't know. And I feel like it's not as talked about, but every single student I've met has had some type of coping mechanism or like abuse in some way, whether that be like in academics or like watching videos or any other thing, like drugs or whatnot, or violence or whatever. And I feel like that's not talked about enough, because even the smartest kids, like I want to get into Harvard. I've always wanted to get into Harvard. It's been one of my dreams to get into an Ivy League school, and I've always been like working towards that. And so I've been in like the pre or the advanced honors classes. So I've surrounded myself with people who I consider really, really smart, and their potential isn't getting tapped in enough. I feel like the school doesn't provide like that education. They don't think like, I'm told whenever I said I wanted to get into Harvard, they tell me like, oh, why are you here? Go to Oxon, like transfer out. But I can't transfer out because I don't have a ride to get to one of those like charter bus stops or whatever. And that's like connecting to another thing that I'll talk about later. But again, like even the smart kids have their own coping mechanisms, and they don't even know it. They don't know how to combat it. They don't know it. And okay, trailing back to like my rides and stuff. So every single day this year, I have been tardy to getting to school. And that's because very early on in the year, ever since last year, ever since I came here, my bus stop is 10 to 15 minutes away from my house. So I have to walk 10 to 15 minutes away, which is a long way. And I'm told, I asked like, why? And they're like, oh, we don't have enough bus drivers. It's just like, it's a nationwide thing. And I'm like, okay, that's understandable, but okay, I'll deal with it. And so early on this year, I remember I was walking to the bus stop, and okay, I'll just backtrack this even more because it's relating to something else. My bus usually gets there, it's told on my sheet, like the transportation sheet, it gets there at 7:07 a.m. So I'm like, okay, I leave at around 6:50. So I left at 6:50, I got to my bus stop. I'm usually there, but then my bus got there at 7:20 a.m. and then it got there at 7:40 a.m. And I'm used to that because last year sometimes it wouldn't come at all, and sometimes it came like an hour or two late, which was normal for me. I was fine with that. And then it started not showing up at all. And I asked one of my friends, like, hey, did the bus come today? Like just randomly, because she would live like right next to the bus stop. And she's like, yeah, my brother went out at like 6:30 a.m. and it comes at like 6:40 now. And they never told me, they never updated me. So I would have been walking 10 to 15 minutes every single day, not seeing anyone at the bus stop and coming back. But the biggest concern I have is that I would walk. One day I was like walking there, and there was this like white van with 3 men in the front. They slowed down in front of me, and their heads were out the window, and they waved at me with like smiles on their face, and it was very malicious. I was very scared. I was like stunned. I was like frozen. And they continued to drive like up ahead towards a turn, and I was scared that they were waiting for me there. And they now know my route. They now know when I come out, when I go to that bus stop every single day, what direction I'm coming from, what direction I'm headed towards. I'm not going to go there anymore. So I don't go to the bus stop anymore. I stopped going to the bus stop because I was scared it's gonna get kidnapped. And as soon as I like drove ahead, I made a U-turn, I went back home. But the reason why like it takes me so long to get to school, because I get to school at 8:15 to 8:20 every single morning, was because I have a little sister, and she needs to get to school before I do. And so her school doors open at around 8 o'clock, and then my mom can take me. So it's just a hard process that I can't really get around. And again, like I'm scared to walk out there. And even if I do have to walk out at like 6:30, 6:20 a.m., which like they never told me, but I'm fine with doing. That's so early in the morning that sometimes it's a little dark. I'm not going to get seen if I do get kidnapped, and if that van does come back and like tries to get me again. Let me see. Another thing about the counselors is also like what Divine said, like with the mental health days. I feel like when we do, I feel like absences, especially like excused absence, unexcused absences, it's hard for us to even get a doctor's note every single day. Because when you're sick, usually like you don't go to the doctors immediately. Like you have to make an appointment, it's same day, and it does for some people cost some money to like go to the doctors. So with the unexcused absences there, it's hard. And I remember last year I had a lot of days absent because I had no idea that there was radon in my basements, because I live in a basement with my mom and my little sister. And apparently there was radon. And so when we got a radon detector, the radon detector beeps at around a level 4. And that's like, oh, you need to open the windows. Like, oh, this is bad. You probably should get out there at level 4. And we were at a level 10. So every single day, it was very toxic in this basement, which I spend my entire day in when I got like come back from school. And I was super, super sick. It was hard for me to like get up and to walk around. And I told my school that, and they're like, okay, unless you have a doctor's note, like we can't do anything. And I'm like, how do I get a doctor's note for radon? So essentially, I remember in one of my classes, this is relating to another thing, and I'm so sorry this is so long, but I do have notes.
Giselle, we're here for you, darling. I'm glad you're getting this out, because otherwise we would not know. So you take your time and tell us what we need to know. This is important. Okay.
So I kind of backtracked too much, but yeah, so I can't go in there without an unexcused absence. And when I did, like in one of my classes, my CCRD class, the teacher had cancer and was getting cancer treatments. So the first quarter he was there. I mean, he wasn't there. There was a sub occasionally. Sometimes there was no sub because again, there's a teacher shortage. So we were just online doing our work. He would post assignments on Google Classroom. I did them all, and I did all the extra credit. I had 105% in his class. Second quarter, he posted one assignment in the beginning and didn't post again. And he never posted that entire quarter until the very last 2 weeks. And those 2 weeks, I was out because of that's when the radon thing happened, and I felt too sick to get out there. And I told my school that, and they said that's not excused. And when he did come back in those 2 weeks, he assigned all the assignments to make up for the assignments he didn't assign during that entire quarter. So my grade went from 105% to an 11%. And even though I did every other assignment when I was there, and for the rest of the quarters, I ended the year with a C, because that 11% brought my grade down so much. And it's now on my permanent record that I have a C because of something that was completely out of my control. And I'm not blaming the teacher. I understand he has cancer treatments and whatnot, and I understand there's a teacher shortage. I'm not blaming any of that. I just felt like that could have been handled a lot better. But yeah, I feel like overall, a lot of it is that friendly, or these areas with not a lot of funding, not a lot of that are underrepresented, they need more representation. They need people to reach out to the students. They can't be like, oh, if you want to like do something good, you go to this different school that's more funded. It's has to be like, I want equal like education. I want equal representation. I want to be able to get the program that these other schools have, because my school currently only offers 4 APs, and I've taken them all. And I've taken so many courses that like I only go to school for 3 courses this year because I've done it all. And I'm taking out 4 community college courses to even it out. But it's just super underrepresented. And I feel like something that can benefit it is a lot more staff training, a lot more staff work, because when the staff provide such a toxic environment where they're constantly talking down on each other and fighting each other, no student wants to go to them, no student wants to talk to them. One of the only good teachers that was there for 2 years, I'll call her out because she is my absolute favorite teacher, Miss Andrews. She was my AP biology teacher. She connected with the students so much, and she knew how to teach as well. She was a medical student. She was there for a little bit while she was working on like her medical degree. And the fact that she not only helped so many students with their mental health, I remember students would come to her when they were like, oh, like I got this girl pregnant, what do I do? And she sat them down. She like told them the correct procedures on how to go about it. She told them to like, if you don't tell your parents, I will. She told them how to like, basically, she put it all in very nice terms, was there for them, yet also told them like the correct procedures and how they should not be doing that at that age. But if she wasn't there, then they would have continued to do that. If she wasn't there, that student wouldn't have talked to any other teacher. If she wasn't there, then I know a lot of students would have had a lot worse time with their mental health, because she did encourage therapy so much to her students. And even like the worst of the worst kids, they did great in her class because they respected her and they knew that she knew how to teach, and they respected that, and she knew like how to help them. And they didn't do drugs in her class. Although like they did mention they did do drugs, she kind of stopped them from doing drugs for a bit. I remember like she actually really did help these students, and it's honestly really commendable. But I feel like with her gone, her very last day there, I remember so many students were crying in her arms because that was the last like good teacher that school had. And there needs to be a lot more staff training, whether that be like a better environment or just better teachers in general, because we are genuinely getting like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to education. And I feel like a lot more needs to be focused on that. Yeah.
Well, I do appreciate, thank you so much for your thoughts. And you're very organized because you actually listed. So you analyze those things that are most problematic, not just for you, but for all students at the school. And you've come up with a very lengthy list. I wrote down a lot of it, but I do want to follow up with you directly after this. There's no question that culture or school culture can make or break those students. And having a healthy school culture, which means healthy leadership, healthy relationships, positivity, encouragement, love in the school, that has to be felt, because when you feel that, you can do anything. You can do anything, and when you don't, it's very difficult to really move and maneuver. But everyone should feel safe in their schools without question. You've helped at least put out there what some of the challenges are that you see, and some of those things that we need to address. With regard to the toxicity within the school culture leadership that you've seen, at least. And of course, there's always several sides to a story, but as a student, you have been negatively impacted grade-wise because of lack of what you feel is lack of understanding of your situation, the challenges you have, just challenges getting to school with the school bus that they're providing, as well as just walking to that school bus and the dangers there. So thank you for that. Really appreciate you. Is there anything that, I think we have a couple people out there, we want to see if maybe they can respond to you. I saw a name out there. Let's see.
I know, I believe we still have to hear from Marie.
Marie.
And also Monkima. And then we have a couple of people on the iPhone. I don't know if they're teenagers or not.
Yeah, I think there's some teenagers there, and Janine Walker as well. All right, Yamarie, Cisse, are you still there?
Hi, everybody. I'm not a teenager. I'm a news reporter. I'm just listening in to kind of hear the concerns from the community, see what needs to be addressed, what school is doing, just trying to gain a better understanding. That's all. I'm just here to listen.
Okay, well, I appreciate you being here. It's important that you're here. Let's see. I see we have Janine Walker. Do you have some thoughts?
Yes. So, I mean, I'm not a teenager. I recently just graduated from college, but I feel like all the issues that we're talking about pertaining to young adults and things that occur within and outside of school are indicative of a larger cultural issue with American society as large, and particularly within the Black community. So I've been reading this book, All About Love by Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks is a social commentator, cultural critic. And in this book, basically, she's just exploring the concept of love in all of its different forms. And one of the things that she highlights is approaching life with a love ethic. So what that means is a mutual, at like the core of it, essentially, is a mutual respect for all the people around you, a will to, like, a communalistic approach to life, and wanting, and she defines love as basically an intentional effort to encourage someone else's spiritual growth. And I think that that is actually pretty relevant within the book. Highly recommend. She talks about how America has a culture of lovelessness that has led us to, at the time this book was written, to brought us into a dark place. And I think things are a lot more heightened and polarized now. So part of that is, as it relates to kids and violence, school violence, outside school violence, and particularly from the Black community, there's not a lot of respect given to children at all. And a matter of fact, a lot of Black people have been conditioned to be very punitive. We're more quick to punish than we are to actually try to gain an understanding and rehabilitate. And that is, I think, one of the larger issues at play as we're talking about, school violence, gun violence, substance abuse, et cetera. Because it's particularly with young adults, because when you grow up in a culture that doesn't respect you, how are you expected to know how to respect other people? When you're growing up in what Bell Hooks described as a very fascistic environment, where it's very authoritarian. It's like, you do this because I tell you to. If you don't do this, well, a lot of kids grow up getting spanked. They're getting verbally berated. They're getting highly disrespected. What is that teaching them? So it's a bit of a cliche, but everything starts at the home. And it's not necessarily to try to bash Black parents, because a lot of it is, stuff that gets passed down generationally. If that's how you were raised, that's how you know how to raise somebody. And especially since things like therapy, they're great, but aren't that accessible, you don't necessarily get that chance to go back and check and reevaluate that. So if we want kids to, have respect for their neighbors, they need to be shown respect as well. They aren't subordinate. Nobody's a subordinate. And so when you have these kids where if they advocate for themselves, they're being told they're talking back. They're being told that self-advocacy is disrespect. Especially for Black boys, they're told to hold in all their emotion. They aren't given healthy outlets for it. What do you expect to happen? And even to what Giselle was saying, there's been a lot of writing based about how the public school system, particularly for schools in predominantly Black areas, is basically preparing kids for prison. And the fact that Friendly has basically a jail room, I mean, a little too on the nose. It's almost hilarious, but it's like the same lovelessness is being translated into the schools. And, I can say I went to a private school. So but I did have some experience in public school, and I'll say the difference that you're seeing there is in a lot of public schools, particularly in Black public schools, it's that same authoritarian style of leadership that people are seeing. Like, you do this, if you don't do this, I'm gonna do something to get back at you. It's very vindictive. But then when I'm in private school, I had a lot more freedom. And if something happened, oftentimes I was given a chance to talk it out. I mean, I wasn't one to get into trouble, but like, it's just those tiny things where it's like you're being treated with respect in one area, but then treated as a subordinate in another area. And not everybody gets necessarily a chance to be able to scope out that difference. So we have a lot of kids that are growing up very frustrated and emotionally stunted simply because we as a culture have told them that self-advocacy is disrespect. If they are a boy, that expressing their emotions makes them weak. And basically, like, just do as you're told, which if you pay attention to history, that's led to a lot of bad things. So, and I think that's one thing that's really at the root of this issue. And I think that's one thing that my generation is starting to tackle head on. Like, you cannot expect respect out of me if you refuse to respect me. We are very big on returning energy. And unfortunately, you know, it's a lot of the older people in generations that are getting to that point and some of the younger kids, but that takes a lot of work to get to that point, which I'm not even gonna say it's the best, but when you're young, you don't necessarily have the hindsight of knowing like what's a good decision, what's a bad decision. You're living the social media age where people are doing some of the most ridiculous things for clout. You know, you're frustrated, you're being disrespected in school, you're being disrespected at home, you're being, if you're a Black person, just being disrespected in the world, period, or if you're in any other marginalized group, LGBTQ+, gender minority, any other ethnic minority, a woman, like you're just growing up with so much frustration and you're literally disarmed. You're being trained to be disarmed and just take it, and you do not have the tools to address it productively.
So let me ask you this, when we're talking about crime, curfew is why we started this conversation. Do you think that the curfew is helpful? You know, having mentioned all of the areas of challenges that you see in the community at large, how do you feel curfew plays into that? And we're searching for solutions. So how do we get to some, maybe 2 or 3 things that we can do to get things better?
So a couple things. So one, I don't think the curfew is necessarily useful. It's something that's been implemented in multiple places, doesn't necessarily garner the results. And it's, yet again, punitive, right? You are introducing, if you have a teenage boy that is out, or a teenager that's out, they're getting introduced to the criminal justice system, right? So it's directly punitive. And I think that this, and I understand why there's a want for immediate solutions, but that's not always necessarily the way that things are going to work if you want it to actually work properly, right? Because there's a philosophy that goes behind policy. So, like, we live in a capitalistic society. So with that, and that kind of gets into like this idea of base and superstructure, everything is built to uphold that. So that means, okay, well, if we have privatized prisons and we need police officers meeting X, Y, and Z quotas, guess what? We're more likely to be punitive and make sure, and take away resources to make sure that we can keep this thing going, make it profitable. So, like, if you want solutions, I'm always one to say, put resources in neighborhoods, right? Studies have shown that putting community gardens in neighborhoods can reduce crime. So even when it comes to things like that, put resources, put mental health resources, but then it also necessitates just a critical look at the culture that we've developed within this country and our society at large. It's not just, okay, what is something we can do right now? These are not short run issues, they are long run issues. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done from the community to start bringing us to a solution. So, and that just starts with, what do you want the founding philosophy of this to be? Do you want to be a place where we have everybody whipped into shape, or do you want to be a harmonious community? And once you can finally, everyone gets onto the same page on that, then let's start talking about solutions. But we have a much larger cultural issue at hand, in my opinion.
Thank you so much for that. It was definitely some great insight. And I've also heard of bell hooks recently as well. So maybe that's confirmation for me to go ahead and get some of those books as well. Lawan, I definitely see your hand up, and I'm going to get to you in a second. I wanted to see if Joaquima, are you still available? Are you a teenager?
No, I'm not a teenager. This is Kima Sherman. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. Do we have any teenagers left on the call?
But can I say something real quick to Giselle?
Go ahead.
Since you called my name, and this is a great forum. It gives the youth a voice, which is awesome and needed, because in order to fix any issues dealing with them, you have to go to them. So this is perfect. Giselle, powerful. You are a powerful young woman. Your voice permeated through this Zoom. Your even the way you stood up for others, not just yourself. The way you're able to excel living in conditions where others would surely fail because of what they're going through. You excelled. Powerful. I just wanted to say that to you. I came in when you spoke, so I appreciate you standing up not only for yourself, but others.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you so much. And Lawan, go ahead.
Hi, Sherman. Thank you so much for having this forum. I think it is very important to include our children because I'm an advocate for my children all day long. And as a parent of 5 children who are going through the Prince George's County public school system, it has been a lot, especially when you're coming from an environment that you see resources are there and available for children to have. For myself, being a youth who was displaced at 17 years old, everything is foundational. As Janine pointed out, as Giselle stated, then the only way to actually repair and fix the problems is to address the foundations of how we got here in the first place. Excuse me, I'm driving, so I hear the turn signal. I feel like we have to get into the communities, like real talk. We have to go back to visiting homes and talking to children. If I had someone to talk to me to help me through, it would have just made things better for me. At 17 years old, I turned to using weed because I had no other thing to make me feel happy. And you know, when you see people around you doing things that makes them smile and you have nothing to be happy about, you're gonna want to try it. I mean, that's just, you're gonna want to try it. With that, I had a whole journey of thinking that I was going to be okay because I used that weed to cover my pain, right? Because we didn't know how to treat ourselves, like to go to therapy. And plus, I'm 17 and 18 years old. Then I also had a child as a teen as well. It's just a lot. It's a lot in our community, as Janine stated out, that we have to repair for anything to get corrected. And what can help is money, the resources. No one should be experiencing what Giselle talked about in high school. I feel like this is Leonie and Joe Clark days. I mean, I think we all have seen that movie. And what did they do? How did he address those issues? They got back into dealing with people at home, seeing what their house situation is like, how are they living? Those things really, really matter when you're expecting a child to come show up every day for school. So I just want to add that let's address the foundational issues. Let's bring love and hope back to our children, our families, so that we can have a better future for the children.
Thank you so much for that commentary. It was much needed to talk about teen pregnancy. I know that Giselle had spoken about that as well. And you know, you also had your hand up. I want to ask you, I'm going to let you talk, but I want to ask all the teens on the call before we go. I know it's getting late. One last question, and it's going to be pertaining to, does your school teach conflict resolution? And if so, how effective is it? And could it be better? And Giselle, we'll go ahead and start you because I know you had your hand up.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly respond to like some of the things Janine was talking about. So something that I actually wrote one of my college essays on, the opener is shocking, but bear with me, was that I didn't believe racism still existed. And because I grew up in Prince William County in Virginia, it was a very diverse community. I am a first generation. My dad was born in France, raised in Guinea in Africa, and my mom was born in the Philippines. And they both immigrated here. And so in Virginia, My dad's Muslim, my mom's Christian. I'm just in the middle. And a lot of I wasn't really bullied for my race. A lot of the peers I was surrounded with, it was super, super diverse. I know that that county is ranked one of the most diverse counties in the nation. And I'm very fortunate to have been there. I'm very fortunate to have been part of like several programs. I know that my school right now even has like so many like Muslim student associations, Black student associations, Asian student associations. It's beautiful. And so again, with what she was saying, like the community, the diverse community and like racism and all that, I feel like that plays a huge role. Because after Virginia, before Maryland, I was in South Dakota for a semester. And there I was part of the 0.4% that wasn't whites. And so I got like harassed. I was asked if I was Asian or Chinese and whatnot. And then when I came to Friendly, I got harassed for being white, even though it's just two sides of the same coin. And it's very weird. And I really do condemn like the advocacy that is happening like in my old school, because literally the other day, I think yesterday, the day before, they were on the news because they had a protest because they have a advocacy club, a protest club. And I think the headline was Virginia students protest Youngkin's school transgender policy. And it made like several big headlines. And there's, again, like those types of advocacies, those protests, they're not encouraged here. They're not talked about here. And no students really protest as much, because I know I wanted to protest last year about the abortion rights and whatnot and women's rights. And so they kind of stirred me away from that. They're like, you shouldn't do that because a lot of the people here, they're on the more radical side. They're kind of for or like against abortions in this area. And also you will get dress coded. So the most you can do is have like a little wristband that you can give around as a protest, but you can't get out of school. You can't stop school. You can't have a walkout. You can't do any of that. You can't have posters. You can't have signs. You can't like really do any of that. And that's not a protest. It's like, oh, we all get a wristband, but that's not really getting the message across. That's not like pointing out to the education system, pointing out to schools like, hey, this is something that's going to affect me in my future. I want this to be stopped. I want to have this change. And another thing with the prison system that she was talking about compared to, I remember I like read several articles about Norway's prison system, which was focused more on rehabilitation. I think, am I using the word right? It was focused more on educating the prisoners rather than punishing the prisoners, where it is in America. So in that prison system, every prisoner had a therapist that they had to go to, that they had to talk to. And they were given several books. They had loads of books. They wrote essays on those books and whatnot. And it wasn't really prison. It was more so a center of rehabilitation. And crime rates significantly dropped since that had happened. And again, that's just a stark comparison. And another thing, it's like I was going to give like my 2 cents about the curfew. Even if there is a curfew, like what about school? That doesn't stop like students who want to commit violence within the daytime within school. It just stops it like from them doing it at night. And also like things like something trivial like the dress code at my school. They're saying they want to prepare us for college, prepare us for the future. There's no dress code in college. There's no dress code. Maybe there's like a work dress code at your job or whatever, but that's not preparing us for the real world. That's just limiting us and limiting our personalities and limiting us expressing ourselves in the way that we want to be expressed. So yeah, that was just my response to Neen. Could you repeat the question that you wanted me to respond to?
No problem at all. So the question is, does your school teach conflict resolution? And if so, how effective is it and what could be better?
They do not. That's just a simple answer. They don't talk about anything. They really just say, that's your parents' problem. Hey, your child is a problem. Get sent home. I remember last year, I did my best to get out of lunch anymore because there's this one staff member. He is on the mic the entire lunch period. He is telling us, sit down, no one should be standing up besides people in line. Everyone sit down. Everyone put your trays away right now. You have 20 seconds until the bell rings. You have a minute until the bell rings, constantly berating us with a very loud speaker every single lunch period. And it gave me a headache. I don't get headaches easily, but it gave me a headache as hearing that every single day. And I remember he would give kids 1 week suspensions for standing up during lunch. And again, like, it's more so like, oh, you're standing up during lunch, go home. You can't get an education anymore for a week. You can't learn anything for a week. Again, like, they don't teach us conflict resolution. They just send us back home. And again, if those students are acting out because of their home life, and school is supposed to provide like the safe space, school is supposed to help us learn like how to express ourselves better, or like be our safe space and environment for that. They're just sending us back to the bad place where we are going to get reprimanded even more for something that we are out of control of, or something so trivial as like standing up during lunch. And again, it's just not focused much to teach us rather than to punish us.
Well, thank you all so much. Giselle, you have so much passion in your voice. I love it. And we're going to continue. In fact, I think you're going to lead our next one. We're going to try to do these monthly. And I want you leading. I think you have a lot to say, and I want you to get your friends and foes, for that matter, and get on the phone and get on this, and let's talk about issues. And let's figure out how to bring some solution. You are a leader. I'd like to see you at your school taking up the mantle to lead, and don't let anybody tell you can't protest. I mean, that's what we want. We want independent thinkers. We don't want everybody thinking the same way. We want diversity in the way that we do things. So thank you for that. I do want to ask, there's an iPhone user that's not identified, and I want to find out if that is one of our teenagers on there. All we see is iPhone. So if you haven't spoken up and you're a teenager, would you mind showing your face and saying a word? iPhone user.
And while we're searching for our next teenager, let me just say, Giselle, I am a veteran of the United States Air Force, and I fought for your right to be able to protest. So it does not matter who you are, where you are, or what you do, how old you are. As a person living in this country, you have the right to assert yourself in this democratic process, and that includes your right to protest, no matter how old you are, because the kids that sat at the counter, for our right to be able to vote and to do so many other things were teenagers. The children led the March in '64 for civil rights, and they led the March in '65 for Voting Rights Act too. So again, don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't go and have your voice heard. And come find me.
Thank you.
It's my sister who's the other iPhone user. She said that she can't hear anything.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. So, now, who can't hear anything? What's this?
The other iPhone user.
Oh, the iPhone user can't hear?
Correct.
They probably just didn't log into the sound part of the Wi-Fi calling.
Yeah,
Or the calling. Can I add something before you guys end about what happens when you go through the processes to complain about administration at the school? So when you're telling the children that, okay, they should go ahead and advocate and protest as they want, but yet they're still going to get pressured from the administration, as Giselle expressed, that they will get sent home from the person in the lunchroom or whatever. Y'all, it takes 6 months to complain against administration to actually get it rectified to the top level. So the process has to be changed in that matter when you have to address issues, when you're complaining about maybe your child isn't learning something, so they're being rebellious against your child. So then the teacher and administration are now bullying your child every day while you're waiting for this 6-month process to happen for your complaints to go through to the top. So as a parent, advocate, and for children, this also has to be addressed on policy level. It shouldn't take that long.
Thank you so much for that.
Can I add something?
Yeah, I was actually going to call on you next. Go ahead, Devon.
I'm going to answer your question, and I'm going to add into what Gisela said. In terms of like for like teaching us conflict resolution, absolutely not. They are so quick to punish kids and send them home to the point where they weaponize the kids' parents against them. Like back in all the way from elementary to now, like they will threaten to call your parents, and they know that if they do, their parents are going to beat their butts. Weaponizing their kids instead of sitting down and talking to them. They're so quick to like punish us. Like they were strict with the dress code because we do have like a dress code, and I do think it's ugly. It's a red shirt for 9th graders, red shirt and khaki pants. Then 10th graders, I'm pretty sure it's navy blue shirt and khaki pants. Then with the 11th and 12th grader, it's either navy blue or white. And I last year, before school was about to end, they were getting on everyone because like everyone was starting to relax with the dress code because like we only have a few more days before summer starts, and like everyone was starting to relax with the dress code. And, like they were sending kids home left to right. And I remember my friend Jonathan, it was Friday. Monday was gonna be our last day of school. They immediately sent him home because like I'm pretty sure it was the color of his pants. And like he didn't even reach the school yet. He said they just told him to leave. And it was like there was only one day left. Why are you so strict right now? One day. And now on the first day of school, they immediately dress coded me before I even reached the school because of my shorts. Because it was still in the 90s and I was wearing shorts, and like I didn't even get inside the school yet. Like, your shorts are too short. I'm like, she didn't send me home, but like they're too short. Don't wear those again. And I'm like, dang. The first day, I didn't even reach the school yet, which is crazy to me. And back to what Gisela said with oh geez, what did you say? I completely forgot what I was gonna say. Dang. Anyway, with the curfew, I definitely don't think it's gonna work in any way. Like kids are sneaky. They will find a way. Either like if they see anyone passing, they will hide, or they will like get a fake ID if they had check IDs. Like, and plus it does nothing. Like, because I see kids leave school all the time during lunch, where they would just walk back up the hill because like either the school food is trash, which it is, and just leave to go eat somewhere else. Because I did that before, where like I hated school food and I just left to go eat and came back. Because they don't let us DoorDash food, but they let the teachers DoorDash food, which is like, wow, crazy, but I'm not gonna get into that.
Yeah.
And I think that's all I have.
No problem. Thank you much. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it sounds like you guys have a lot of issues that are kind of like building up and becoming overwhelming. And it may seem like trifle issues to other people, but you know, at the level of where you all are right now and the social norms and situations that you all are facing, these are causing stressors. And it's also, you know, being exasperated, especially when you have individuals who like you say, don't have those coping methods. I thought that, you know, PGCPS had implemented some of those things and also had individuals who were coming in to teach conflict resolution. But I feel like that's something that, you know, we should explore, because if people aren't able to handle those emotions, whether they're able to go, you know, to a counselor, you know, that are lacking, as you know, you have described, you know, that's something that we have to address. And, you know, and Macia, who has some larger issues, I definitely want to ask you that question as well. You know, in your school, do you feel like there is any conflict resolution, you know, being taught or exemplified? Or is it, you know, pretty much you all are watching examples of the older adults in the room who are, you know, causing, you know, drama within themselves? Ms. King Brooks.
Oh, I didn't know I was off of mute.
No, that's fine. I'm actually asking you right now.
You said, how do they teach conflict resolution at my school?
Yeah, is there any of that being taught at your school? You know, because you certainly have experienced a wealth of trauma. You know, I don't know if you have realized it or not, but you certainly have, you know, to be at such a young age and to experience that. You know, I'm a service member and work in law enforcement and stuff like that, and I have never experienced anything remotely close to what you have. But I do want to ask if you, you know, definitely have seen, any conflict resolution in your school, you know, anywhere? And do you think it would be beneficial to have something like that in school?
I mean, if we're talking about school, they don't have no conflict resolution at my school. I know that they have mediations after drama happens at school. Like, let's say an argument happened, they have a mediation, or a fight happened, they have a mediation. But I feel as though when they do have it, it's far too late. Other than that, like conflicts that happen in school that's not like that may not be with another person. Like they said, they're quick to send you home for suspension. Like you don't even get no say. You don't get to talk about what happened. You're just gone just like that. And my school, they do have a strict dress code as well. It's like because we have metal detectors at our school. Like if you get there and there's something off, like if your pants are shade too dark, they send you right back home. If your shirts is not the right type of shirt that they want you to wear, you're going right back home. And I feel like the only thing that was stopping my school from having a shooting personally is the metal detectors. Because people do be getting heated. It do be a lot going on in the school building with the kids and the adults. And it's like they get notified about everything, but they don't do anything about it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate to hear. And I think that, you know, what we should do definitely is explore peer mediators in your schools. I know when I was coming up in school, in middle school and high school, we had, students who were peer mediators who were able to, you know, kind of step in and pull, you know, have a certain, you know, 30-minute hour powwow. And it's actually a format. And it was a way for accountability amongst ourselves as peers. So hopefully that's something that you all can research and explore, and we can probably see within PGCPS. I see, Divine, your hand is up again. Did you have another question?
No, I wanted to add something else because I just remembered what I wanted to say. There was this incident, I'm pretty sure it happened last year, where back in, I'm pretty sure December, there was this huge fight in our cafeteria, like 4 or 5 fights going on at the same time. And it got so bad, students were jumping on our table. I wasn't there that day, but we suffered the consequences after, where they, instead of punishing those group of students, they punished everyone. They, during lunch, we could go outside and like get a breath of fresh air. They took that away from us. And this was like in the hype of COVID. So everyone, like there was obviously problems with like keeping everyone inside because there was not enough lunch tables and everyone was kind of crammed in near each other. COVID was still a thing going on. And like some students did have COVID, which was terrible. And I just want to like, instead of punishing those group of kids who started the fight, they punished us all, which has really got on my nerves. And there was a fight this week, 4 or 5 fights, again, in the gym. I was, in fact, not there. It happened in the morning, right when school was starting, which is crazy. I'm pretty sure it was our 9th graders.
What are y'all fighting about? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what can you speak on? Like, what are you seeing? Like, some of these fights are being brought, you know.
I think it might be starting off in social media. Like, it starts like somewhere in beef in social media, then it comes right back to the school. And like, I feel like some of these like students hype fights. Like they hype it and they record it. And like, once you see those recordings, you're like, all right, it's like hyping you up to fight even more. Like, cause you know, if you lose on the recording, it's going to be all over social media. And like, people are going to be chomping on like, hey, you lost this fight, dang. And like, it's going to make you want to fight that person again for a rematch. And it just keeps on going.
Do you believe that Prince George's schools should follow some of the other school districts who are banning phones within throughout class throughout the day? Or do you feel like hold on to your phone?
Me personally, I'm keeping my phone, don't touch my phone. But it's more of students, like I have more of like who they are as a person. Like, I don't think school can do anything about it. Even if you take the phone, when they leave school, they're gonna still be on social media. And I'm pretty sure that's how it happens. So it's in terms of the students, like with conflict resolution, like there is no, like students will not de-escalate the fight. That's just how they kind of were raised, and like no school or parents have taught them like empathy or anything, like let it go. No school is talking that. So that they just get their lick back immediately. Even if you take the phone, it's gonna be even if you take it's not going to stop the problem.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Sean Wilson, you have a question or comment? And you're still muted, sir.
Hey, thank you so much, Sherman Hardy, Anthony Tillman, and the Honorable Monique Anderson Walker for putting this together. And I want to thank all of the youth that participated in just hearing your stories and your commentary. Has been very impactful tonight. I just hope that you know that I expressed the sense of all the adults on the calls that this is very much needed. Your voices do matter. I just want to let you know that. Sergeant Charles put in a comment. He wanted to know what schools you attended. But my question for all the youth on the call was that we've been seeing an increase in truancy throughout our school system, which has been a cause as well for many carjackings taking place throughout the day, as well as unfortunate homicides. In your own opinions, personally, what do you think is causing students to not want to attend school and also get involved with carjackings or commit homicides?
Thank you so much, Sean, for that question. Micaiah, and then Divine, and then Giselle, and we'll close out after that.
I'm sorry, what was it?
Sean wanted to know about truancy and kid skipping and missing class as it relates to a lot of the crime happens during the daytime and the carjackings and stuff like that. He wanted to know what was the cause of kids missing out in school. Did I get that, Sean, or would you like to reiterate your question?
Yes, I wanted to know what, in your own opinions, because you're currently in school, these are your peers. What do you think is causing them to not go to school? Because we've been seeing a lot of high truancy numbers in the county. As you know, we've also been seeing high rates of carjackings when it relates to juveniles, as well as increase of murder victims as well as suspects.
All right, I'm taking this as you're asking why do I think kids are skipping school nowadays?
And essentially, yes. And can you repeat your school as well, each one of you?
I was trying to go to school, and I feel like kids skip school because I feel as though kids are skipping school because it's a lot going on. Like maybe their grades aren't so good. Like maybe they need help. They're not getting the help that they need. Maybe they think it's cool. Maybe they're doing it because their friends are doing it for whatever reason. Maybe they're doing it because their parents or no one else is holding them accountable, looking up to them to go to school, to get good grades. And maybe it's just because the teachers are too stressful. I know some people just skip certain classes so they don't have to see the teacher because some of the teachers be doing too much. And then once any type of confrontation is going on, it's always being held on the kid. And I feel like people are skipping classes because there's not much other than they can do. I mean, they can't, like, because if you tell the principal or anybody else what's going on at the school, they're just going to defend their teachers and try to put the blame on the kid or the student when really it's not what it is or what they try to make it.
Thank you so much for that. Divine?
For me, I believe it might be a few things like peer pressure, like, hey, you want to skip your class with your friends? Like, sure. And definitely like what Kaya said, like teachers, because I know a lot of teachers in the school, they just be doing a lot. And for me, like right now, I'm ready to just drop out. Like school has just started and they're giving out so much work. I was sick for 2 days last week, and I missed 2 days of my classes. Work piling up on those 2 days, and I couldn't get excused absence for those 2 days because once again, need a doctor's note, and I'm sick. I'm not going to book a doctor's appointment because I just stay home and drink some medicine because that's what I did, and those 2 days are still unexcused, and sometimes they just want to take a nice little, because you know how at work they take like a 30-minute break and like they like do what they want for those 30 minutes or so. That's what kids kind of do. Like at lunch, you can barely like you can socialize with your peers, but they will tell you to like be quiet. Like if you're trying to like sit down, be quiet. Either you go to stand up in the lunch line or you sit your butt back down. And like they did take lunch away for the ninth graders, like to go outside. So they're definitely stuck inside. So no fresh air for them. Cause I know it does be hot in that cafeteria, like all those people talking and breathing on each other. So obviously they leave or they just don't want to be in school. Like it's uninterested, like it does not interest them at all. Like I get it, because like I'm learning all this pointless stuff that I'm definitely not going to use as soon as I graduate. I would leave too, but I'm not that type of student. So I do get them like leaving. I see a lot of students like immediately walking back up the hill. It's a big hill, and they're like they rather walk back up that big hill than be in the school. I get it. And they do, I know a few students who skip classes because like, I know a friend who is in 12th grade, he skips this drama class that I'm in a couple times because like he doesn't have a job and he didn't want to be in part of the class and he can't get a half day unless you have a job. Because his classes that he needs are all in his like first and second period. But you need your all your hours in a job to be able to have a half day. Which is like dang, like I took all my core classes, but I still need to be in school the whole time because like I have all my service learning hours. I just don't have a job. So I'm stuck there the whole time. And like I get like why STEM students, like as soon as some of their core classes are done, they dip. Like I don't need to go to this art class or this drama class. I can just leave. I already took my math and science. That's all I need to pass. So I get that. And sometimes peers, they encourage the worst in them. Like if you hang around a certain group and they just leave, and like I see definitely a group of kids walk up, like leave the school during lunch. So it's definitely your peers influencing you as well.
Awesome.
Let me change the question a little bit for Giselle. I think she's the next person who's going to answer it. You know, dealing with truancy, but dealing with maybe a change of our school week, maybe more of a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday in school, where Wednesday is a flex day for you.
Yeah, I already like wrote down a bunch of stuff.
Okay. Well, tell me your thoughts on maybe how we approach school a little differently based on some of the things we learned during COVID. You know, you did have that flex day on Wednesday during COVID. Maybe some things that worked that you think we can incorporate to make it better for teachers, because they need some mental health support as well, clearly, as well as the students.
So I was talked about a 4-day school system, which when I was in South Dakota, which was the first semester of that virtual year, they had a 4-day school system. And even though I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to catch the bus, because South Dakota is just farmland, so the school's an hour or 2 hours away, and I got out of school at like 4 p.m. I still felt energized to go every single day. I didn't think it was too much. I didn't think that like it was so taxing to be able to like go to school that early for that long every single day. And again, there's no recharge days. So in a 5-day school week, work week, or whichever, really your only recharge day is Friday night to Saturday. And again, that's when you might plan events or going out with friends or social gatherings, because we thrive on social connection. And Sunday is your day where it's like, oh, you're dreading going back to work or you're dreading going back to school. Like Monday, you have to wake up early, so you have to end your day early. And it's just a whole process. And another big thing that I thought was now we are all our work is online. So our work follows us, whether we're in school or not. On the weekends, we see our teachers grading assignments and whatnot. We can't escape it. It's there constantly now. It's not like, oh, my homework's due tomorrow when I get back to school. No, it's due when you get home, because you still have work to do when you get home. You still have studying to do when you get home. Your teacher posted a lecture that you have to do when you get home. Your school doesn't end on Friday. It doesn't end when you get home. It just doesn't end. And it's very, very stressful for us. Another thing I want to touch on that Divine mentioned about classes. So I took a lot of classes during my entire high school experience. And so when I transferred to Friendly, I was already in like the senior level classes. And there was really no classes that transferred over from my old schools to Friendly. Friendly did not offer many classes. They gave me around 3 to 4 like physical education classes, despite me already completing my physical education class completers. I didn't want to take those classes, but they're like, that's all we offer. You have no choice. And it's not fun. Why would I want to go to class that I don't feel like I'm going to learn anything? And I didn't learn anything. The teacher did not care. They posted basically nothing. They didn't teach us. They weren't passionate about what they were teaching, and it just wasn't fun. I don't want to go to a class I'm not passionate about or anything, which is why I feel like that school environment is so dreading. There's nothing that really gets kids motivated. Like, I feel like the only program that we have that's like semi-interesting for students is like the art program, but the art program is in every single school. It's not just related to my school, like my school special because it has like AP art. No, every school has AP art. Every school has an art class and whatnot.
Doesn't the school have a health, public health component where you actually have a portion of the school that's built out to look just like a hospital? I thought that was extraordinary. I visited several times, and that students can actually get certifications. So when they graduate, they're certified to go into nursing or some paramedical profession.
It does, but you can only attend those classes your sophomore year. So if you weren't already there your first 4 years, you can't attend those classes. You can't have that experience. The people who are in that class, I know they have a great experience, but my friends who wanted to get into that class, they couldn't. And me, I transferred like my second semester sophomore year. I couldn't get in. It wasn't offered to me, and that's probably again like one of the only things that makes it special. Because
so let me ask this, and maybe, I know we need to wrap up at some point, but we want to definitely continue this conversation, over the next several weeks, months, years. I think this just needs to continue. That's how we'll get to some results.
Monique, really quick.
Yes.
I just want to say that, I've been listening to your stories, and of course, I'm appalled by everything that you guys are saying, and of course, Giselle, I want to give you an air hug because I know you, and of course, everybody that's here, I want to give you an air hug because you guys been through so much. So, what me and the student board member, Alvaro Ruiz Riaz, I probably said his name wrong, but we're hosting a listening session next month. And we want to getting the administration involved as well, because it seems like a lot of you guys have issues, and I think the administration needs to hear these issues and really come up with solutions. When I created the Education Roundtable like 3 years ago, it was just an idea of just solutions. Of course, we always complain about issues that happen in school, but not many people have solutions. And I think Monique Anderson Walker hit it on the head when she says like, it's time for us really to come down and really figure out what we can actually do and come together as a community to really have these conversations about what we can do to help. And of course, I've been to Friendly a lot of times. I never knew that they had all the issues there. And I'm kind of like, I really need to I really just about to call the board member and say, I need to get another tour because I never heard of these places and the rooms. And, and as the chair of the Education Roundtable for Prince George's County Public Schools, I feel like we need to be aware of these issues and aware of these concerns because it'll help us, do better and hold the schools more accountable and hold the teachers more accountable and hold the principals more accountable and hold the administration more accountable, because these are like the conversations that we need to hear and really, get more in depth in. So I definitely want to, continue this conversation. And of course, our listening session is going to be the last Wednesday of October, which is going to be on October 26th. So I just want to kind of give you like a save the date. And that way you can kind of, join us, because we will have some students from the school system that's going to be there. Of course, it's going to be actually hosted by our student board member for Prince George's County Public Schools. And of course, I want to, Giselle and of course, Divine. I really want you guys to get there and tell your story, so that way everybody can hear it. And of course, the administration can hear it as well, because I don't think that they're really listening, about these issues. And I really don't think they're aware of a lot of issues. I think when we hear stuff like this, we really, don't really understand that it can happen, you know what I'm saying? And of course, the generation is totally different right now. You know what I'm saying? I'm the PTA president of Crossland High School, right up the street from you, Giselle. And of course, we don't have them same issues. And we probably do, but I probably don't even know. And that's the sad part about, hearing these stories tonight, is that I think we need to do better and listen more and just talk less. And of course, I appreciate, Sherman Hardy and of course Monique Anderson Walker, the amazing Monique Anderson Walker for hosting this. And I think we need to just, continue this conversation. And maybe it won't take, it might take us several conversations to have this, because I think this is not a 2 conversation or a 3 conversation thing. I think this needs to be ongoing, because these are these are real issues. And I think that we all need to really just come up together. So October 26th was going to kind of give you guys like a save the date. And I just want you guys to know that it's not over. We're going to really dig down on this, and really, I'm literally going to schedule a time with the principal to visit Friendly High School, like the next couple weeks, because I really need to, visit that school and of course, hear about these issues and see. And I thank you, Sherman, for doing this, man. I appreciate you for this, making this happen, because it was totally needed tonight. And thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for everybody who joined this call. And a special thank you to all the teens who came, because you are brave, you are courageous. We see you, we hear you, we love you, we respect you, and we want to make sure that this translates into something meaningful. I don't do anything lightly. Anytime I do something, it's intentional. And I want to make sure that my intentions are to take your voice and amplify it, because, like I say, you do matter, and your voice matters. So, I'm not going to belabor this, but again, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you all stay engaged, continue along this process.
So I am on Alvaro's advisory council. I joined this year to bring representation to less represented schools. And I feel like, especially with like the tours and such, a person who loves the school is not going to show you the bad things about it. The people who hate the school are going to show you the bad things about it. And that's why I feel like the solutions, if you're looking for solutions, you look for what the people who think there's something wrong with the school. You look to the students who are in that school environment who are suffering the most. If, say, like someone's starving, you ask the starving person what they need. You don't ask the privileged rich person who's living in their household, who's like probably donated like $2 to that starving person. What does that starving person need? And I feel like, again, like a big problem with like tours, or just like, I remember when one of the administrations came to like, or one of the staff members came to like look in my classroom for my pre-calc class. This teacher actually taught that day, whereas they didn't teach every other day. They actually showed us examples on how to solve the problem. They walked us step by step. And we, as students, engaged, and we did our best to participate, even students who didn't participate every day, because they wanted to show the staff member like, oh, I'm a good student. Like, you should pay attention to me. I think I'm a good student. You should give me rewards for that. And again, like, if someone's watching you, if you know someone's watching you, you're going to try to put on a prettier face. If you don't know someone's watching you, if you're going to talk to the students who are always there, who are constantly watching, they're going to tell you like what they look like without like all their makeup and their pretty face on. So
I'd like to add to this, because my school has recently started a media center class, which is now a new class in our school, where we do the morning announcements. And our teacher asked, like, what are some good things that we can say about our school? Literally no one had anything good to say. Like, nothing good. Like, there were fights rampant out the school. Literally this week, some girl bought marijuana and got caught with a bag full of it and got her, I'm pretty sure, expelled. Over social media, posting fights and all of this, like school lunch, sometimes trash. Like, there was chunky milk. Disgusting. Like, there was nothing good to say, and we were going to do a podcast about some things bring students, like, get conversations starting about school, like what things that need to change. But I don't think this podcast will change anything unless the administrators and the teachers listen, which they probably won't, because I don't want a bad rep in front of the school, because the school was already, I'm pretty sure, on the news for like being one of one of the worst schools. And like, whatever you say, whenever people ask, like, what school do you go to? And I say Potomac, like, oh, you go to Potomac. Like the school already has a bad rep. So they don't want anything like students like saying the teacher didn't want bad things to say about school at all. Like, what are some positive things? Like, there's nothing positive about this school. No one wants to be here.
Do you all rally around sports? I know
Sports?
that used to be the big rallying point for schools and raise school spirit around sports. Is that no longer a thing?
There are sports, but I don't attend any sports games. I don't know how many people attend that. I think a few. And since our homecoming is coming, maybe there will like more rallies for sports, but I don't attend any.
Okay, I've been to a few of your Potomac basketball games. They are very exciting.
Yeah. What about school? What about school spirit week? You know, I know you guys still have that, right?
Yeah, but our school spirit week last week sucked. It really did.
Wow.
Like for high school, like a lot of people for high school, like prom, spirit week, all those like are things that are hyped up for. But since COVID hit, I'm pretty a lot of kids lost their prom. Spirit week didn't happen. Homecoming didn't happen. So I'm hoping this year they don't cancel any of that because like this is my last year. I don't want to miss out on my prom. This is something like a lot of kids excite for. And like if you miss out on it, like you're missing out on the high school experience.
Right.
And one thing I want to add from what Giselle said is about like the 4-day school week. I think that's a great thing. Like instead of like, because all of us like for like I've been going to school my whole life. Like repeated it, like it's repeated. Like, all right, summer is like 2 months of summer, sometimes 2 months. This summer was very short. It sucked. 2 months of summer, then back to school for like 6, 7, 8 months, and then repeat. Like, and then 2-day weekends that go by quickly. And Sunday, I do not count that as the weekend. Like, obviously, you're dreading going back to school.
Well,
and like, it's so depressing. Like, oh my God, 1 day of free time.
Let's have a follow-up discussion where we talk about, because we do have to wrap. This has been so insightful, and just thank you so much to everybody who participated tonight. And I know that there's more information, as you all are so brilliant and are so very, very expressive, beautifully expressive. But I think for our next steps, let's really talk about exploring what a 4-day school week would look like and what that flex day should look like. Is that a day for club work, you know, where you do your robotics clubs or your specialized clubs? Is that a day where you have small group for mental health? Is that something that we should have consistent? Is that a day that we use for something other than in classroom, but it's still a day. It's restful but productive too. Let's talk about what that could look like, and then let's also talk about graduating with certifications and with licensing so that you're graduating ready to go into the workforce. It'd be great to go to college, and many people will. And with no doubt, those people who aim to go where they want to go will get there. You'll get to your Harvard if you wish to go there. But I'll say this. I think it's so important that there's hope at the end of high school, and not that you get out of high school just to figure out what's next. No, we've got to have something for you. And I think when you come to school knowing that you know, maybe you're having more experiential learning where it's not just book learning, but you're going through some experimentation. You're building a robot, you're building a drone, you're participating in something that shows an outcome. There's a project that you're working with, your group project, something that's real, something that is going to translate well to real life experiences. I think that's the next conversation of this series. I believe this will be a series of conversations that we're going to have on this subject. I'm glad that it did start out with talking about curfew, because I think through this we recognize, and maybe that's a temporary, just but one piece of it. There's so much more that needs to be done in making sure that there are resources, that there's support, and that we interject love and everything. That theme was spoken by several people, that they're not feeling the love. However you expressed it, that's what came across, and we need that. We need that love. we've got to figure that out too. I'm so excited to be working towards solutions with this wonderful bunch, with Sherman, with Anthony, and with you all. I always say that the youth are our leaders now, that people have been lying to you, telling you the leaders of the future. No, you're our leaders now. As Sherman said, it's the youth that have led most of the transformative changes that have occurred in this nation and around the world. We're seeing it's the youth movement. So this will be no different. We need you, and this is a platform that we're excited to participate with you on. So with that, I will say good night. I did put I'm going to put my email in here for everyone. Feel free to reach out to me, and I did send my cell phone to a few folks. I want us to definitely keep in touch, but definitely keep in touch through email as well. All right, love you all, and I mean that. And we're going to get through this together, because nothing is done. No success happens without this group effort. So we're going to do this. We're going to get this done together. Okay. Love you all, and good night.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for being on. Appreciate you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
And this will be recorded, and we'll put it out there too, so you can see it again. Thanks. Good night, everyone.